rather be on the same page. If you're Christian, let your woman be Christian as well. Look how long Muslims get married for.
So are we saying that, are we grading the success of a marriage based on how long it is?
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow. Well,
just
I
wanna
have
know.
to think.
Good day, spiritual people. This is All Things Spirituality with Cyril Pilgrimson. This is not an interview. This is a conversation between me and the next person and the next person, getting to know about their beliefs and then what do they think about spirituality. So today we have a special guest. Today it's a classic episode. I'm having a beautiful lady here. I'll call her, when it comes to beauty, a 10.
Oh,
When it comes to the brains, I give her a 11. When it comes to spirituality, I give her a 12. And then here we have another guest here. This one is a writer. This one. He's been writing a lot of books. He's so controversial, like so controversial. So I'll let them to introduce themselves. Can you introduce yourself?
hello everybody. My name is Tepiso Mudupi. I am a human being and I'm here to speak as a human being and not a rating on a scale. I am open to this conversation. I am open to sharing my thoughts on this conversation, and I am pleased to be here and I look forward to cultivating healthy conversation.
Tabisi, tell us who are you, what do you do?
Hello everyone. So my name is Mtabisi Sitole. I am a writer, like Cyril said. I'm passionate about nature, farming. Here partially because I'm also intrigued by the same topic as Cyril. And also I'm a conversationalist. And also as a point of order, J. Comrade. So I am a writer. I haven't published my first book yet, though I have published in anthologies.
Yeah.
That's me.
That's what's up. So today, what I want to know is that, like, it's perceived, or we know that Nkulunkulu, God, is a male, is a man, and Jesus Christ is a man. So, my question for you, especially, you need to add on that, like, does that make you inferior to man since you're a woman when you hear Jesus is a man? Also, like, they can't be female pastors or female bishops. They need to be a male pastor and a male bishop. So what's your take on that? How do you feel about that?
I think being that religion is about the systems or various systems of belief in society, if we look at how, because I study anthropology and I have been exposed to the history of society, the idea of men being at the top of society's sort of pyramid is a patriarchal facet of society that has existed for a long time. And often the most dominant people in society are the ones who write history, right? They write the books, they write the holy books.
Which in most cases are men.
And so obviously the depiction of God will be associated with men, as those are the people in society who have often, or most often, been in charge of writing books, so in charge of public life and public discourse until very recently. So I would just account it to the person holding the pen, the person holding the conversation, the person dominant in the conversation. The person who writes history tends to represent facts, which may not always necessarily be a truth. And I mean, the nature of God, many agnostics believe we can't necessarily decipher. So it's only a speculation that God is a man.
That's a speculation.
Yeah.
And then to add on that, what's your take on that?
Please repeat your question, like specifically.
Like, it's being speculated, as she said. Uguti, Jesus Christ is a man, and God is a man, and there should be no female pastors or female bishops. They need to be a man. Pope Francis is a man. All the popes they've been a man. So what's your idea on that topic or question?
So, I mean, first of all, like, let there be no ambiguity on my part. I was raised in the ZCC.
Which is the head of it is man.
Let me finish.
Lukhanyane.
Sure. So I was raised in the ZCC.
Yeah.
I am Christian. I do believe in amadlozi. You mentioned the Pope, Pope Francis, or I don't know.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah.
Pope Francis?
Yeah.
You mentioned that. How many denominations are there of Christianity? Same with every religion, right? For me, if I'm to say, for example, I'm Christian and still believe in amadlozi, what would the larger Christian society say of me? So for me, I think everything, like, in as much as we can say everything is subjective or this or that, I think there is a natural order to things, but I don't think history books or books where the victor is written, as you said, are really going to be the end and be all of what our spirituality is or what our spirits are.
Okay.
And what guides the spirit.
Yeah, that's profound. So, all of us, we black people, we Africans. So, what's your take on African spirituality? Mangiti, African spirituality, like the ancestors. Acknowledging your ancestors, not worshipping your ancestors, because a lot of people get confused about that. Me, I acknowledge my ancestors. I know my lineage, like my grandparents, mama.
Sure.
So what's your take on that? There's no such thing as ancestors, or your guys believe in ancestors as Africans?
I mean, should I start?
Sure.
So, like I said, I believe in amadlozi, even as a Christian, right? And that has to do largely with the fact that, like, we come from one source, right?
Which is?
Eh?
Which is?
Nkulunkulu, Mwari, God,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And therefore, like, we depart to the same destination, and even then, destination may be the wrong term. So I spent the formative years of my life in a village, right? In a village that didn't practice Christianity, right? Much like my mom was raised in the same village, right? But she ended up being ZCC later on in life, right? But growing up with my grandparents, as like most black kids, growing up with my grandparents, there was no Christianity in the village, right? But we still had a sense of what you call namatlos, vazimu, right? So for me, I think I might be falling slightly off topic, but for me, like, there's no distinction between religion. For me, is like what you practice to honor your spirit, to honor the spiritual world that keeps you together as a being.
So
That's
African
religion.
spirituality, like ancestors like upahla, should be practiced.
I won't say it should be. For me,
What?
it is a thing that happens. I don't think I do it as much as I should.
Okay.
For me, like, knowing my health, knowing to a certain extent the composition of my being,
Okay.
but I think it's important for an individual.
And then.
Yeah, I think the point that you're making is that there are different ways to practice spirituality, and there are different ways to engage in your spirit. Christianity is one of them, and African spirituality is another. So whether or not people should or shouldn't is obviously a matter of perspective, biography. It's a very subjective thing. But both of them represent this idea that truth can be subjective if it's experienced. So for someone who grew up in a Muslim community, the Quran and Islam is their truth. It is what they practice, what they believe. For someone like myself, and Tabisi, we both grew up, I also grew up in a village, so connection to my ancestors is something that has not necessarily just been taught to me. It's something that exists in the world as I enter into the world, as I'm born into a world where African spirituality is not just something that we do on a specific day, but it's something that we do when we greet each other. Like when someone says Sanbonan or Dumelan, they're not greeting just the one human being, they're greeting all the people that you walk this world with, So it's ingrained in the way that we interact. It's not just a practice.
When you say we, who do you mean as we? African people or everybody in the world, including Asians and occasions?
Interestingly, I read a book on Feng Shui, which is
On what?
Feng Shui.
Okay.
So Feng Shui is how I think it's a Chinese principle of how we organize spaces in a way that optimizes the flow of energy. And Chinese people actually think or direct where they bury their dead for optimum energy, so that those people can bless them. So they also engage with their ancestors in a certain or particular way. I think that the idea of demonizing acknowledgement or conversation around ancestors and spirituality is a colonial and very sort of anti-non-European mechanism that is used to demonize people who don't necessarily abide to the structural colonial Christianity that has spread over the world. So every non-European society, I would argue, obviously this is not necessarily researched, has elements of interacting with their ancestors, but it's only within the Christian faith that is demonized or argued as being necessarily separate or necessarily pagan or wrong in one way or another.
Okay, speaking about since your guys said Gucci Umtaushi Gucci grew up in a village, the mother went to ZCC, like when you have like children, what belief do you want them to believe in, or religion, or what? Do you want them to be Christian, or do you want them to pass that to ancestors, or what? And now in Tabisi, what's...
I think I'd just like to backtrack a bit. The first point of conversation, you mentioned that it is said, or there's a belief that God is male and that pastors should be male.
Yeah.
And then you went on to say, also God is a man and pastor should be a man. And we've kind of had this conversation before, but there is a distinction between biological sex and social gender. So biological sex is whether you are male or female, which denotes sometimes your genitalia, your chromosomes, right? So male and female refers to your sex. And then man and woman refers to your gender, how society constructs or understands what a man is, what a man looks like, what they sound like, what they walk like, what they wear. When it comes to whether or not I choose or decide to have children, I think that's not necessarily something that should just apply to me as a woman, but to all of us as people who interact with children, as people who are adults and at times responsible for caring for children, raising children. So I think the raising and the caring of children shouldn't just be associated with women. It's something that we collectively as a village, should be concerned with. And I want us to approach the conversation from that point of view. Okay. So my view on how children should be, or how I think children should be taught when it comes to spirituality, is an open-ended book. I think children are very playful and they tend to explore. So you can teach a child about belief systems, but I believe in respecting them enough at a certain age to know that they can actually decide for themselves how they choose to connect to God, what kind of a God they choose to connect to, and what it means to them. Because you are allowing a child to know themselves from a very young age without imposing something on them.
Nta, her answer was broad. Took it, but I understand.
Yeah.
And then when I like your children, what do you want them to believe in, or who do you want them to worship?
That's a very strange question. Who I want them to worship. So for me, presuming I have kids, or I want kids,
guys,
or
you don't want to have children,
whatever.
eh?
No, man, it's not even that, but it's also like the flow of life. Like, I think one thing a few friends and I always like talk about when we talk about like my baby siblings and like his nephews, is that like sometimes you just sit and you observe children and like you learn so much about like life generally and the world itself, I think we just interacting with children, you find growth in that, like there's certain conversations I would have with my baby brother that would like blow my mind, or have been blowing my mind for years, since the kid was like 4, you know? And in those little instances, like, I realized that, shit, oh, sorry for cussing. Children, we can learn so much more from children, more than maybe we can teach them. Even if, as an adult, you might be a guiding hand to an extent for a child. But how they are to be raised, I think that's something that you discover. Because even as we having this conversation on spirituality and whatnot and what we believe in, I don't think like we're even aware of like the maybe even 20% of who we are holistically, you know.
So
The ways we inhabit worlds and the world.
we discover that through having the children, or you can discover it before you have any children.
Eh?
What's the discovery
Of what?
of like teaching your children how to, or raising your children? Do you discover that when you have them, or you can discover that before by seeing other children outside, Makilwane as a child? When do you discover that?
I think that's a chat between me and God when there's a child.
Come again?
That's like a chat between me and Unkulunkulu when there is a child to be raised.
Can I just add something to this?
Please.
It's interesting because when we say what should we teach children, right? And if the three of us belong to different belief systems, and we think about how governments and countries go about faith and religion, and you notice what is going on in Gaza, the idea of what should be practiced can be easily connected to war, right? Because if you believe that I should raise my child in this way, and I believe that you should raise your child in that way, there's a conflict in terms of what we think children should be believing. And so the idea of should is quite dogmatic, and even if we don't obviously intend it to have these kinds of effects, it can be quite detrimental when taken on a more macro point of view.
Okay.
So what he is referring to is that his growth in interacting with his little brother is a collaboration between him and his little brother.
Okay.
So I would
Makes
say
sense.
then I believe in collaborating with children, right? Collaborating in conversation and learning from the child what they are finding about the world that is interesting, and learning from the child. Because sometimes a child will ask you about God, and then you'll answer them and be like, but isn't God good? You know, or they'll ask a very simple question, but that question will show what their point of view on this idea or this testament or this rule in religion is. And that is the point of growth, right? That is the shift. So it doesn't have to be your own child.
Okay.
You can just have a random conversation with a child, and they literally mold you as you mold them. So I think of it as a collaboration.
Okay, that's what's up. So 2017, when I was still living with my mom and my sister, living in Joburg CBT, you know, we have these things on the weekend where we chill, we take out camp chairs, we chill there in the car, we play sound, and then we drink. We have cooler boxes there, you see. So, this bro come to me, when he comes to us, he greets all of us, and then he come to me, he say, Epa, I've been locked up for 10 years. I just came out now. I've never had intimacy with a woman. Can you help me find a partner? Hey, me, I'll give you something. Hey, me, I'm like, hey, you give me something. Let me take you there. Me and the nigga, we go there. We go to the portal, and then the guy offers to buy me a woman. I'm like, nah, give me the cash. Me, I want to go back and drink with my homies. See, still a heavy drinker there. You see, the nigga went there in the portal, bought, and then had intimacy with the woman. And then me, in my thoughts, after giving me cash, and then me in my thoughts, I'm like, this guy, he didn't even go home to cleanse himself. He was there in prison for 10 years, you see. And then the next bro, when he comes there and have intimacy with the same woman that the guy it's gonna take all the energies, the bad energies. Yabo. So me, my question on that is that, you guys, do you know that when you have intimacy with a partner, your guys change energies? Do you know that? And what do you say about that? Can you have sex with anybody, or energies, they don't matter, or what?
Yeah.
Can I start with you since you're a woman?
Yeah, I think I want you to explain to me exactly what you mean by exchange energies. Like, I know that you can speak about it generally and
Okay.
say energy,
Okay,
but like, what do you mean
The
exactly?
spirits are intertwined. Like, let's say your lineage, your family, your spirits, like they are spirits where they don't want wealth or prosperity or money. So my spirits, they want prosperity and that. So when I become intimate with you, I take all that, and then it lowers my, I don't know if I'm making sense. But
Okay, so
yeah.
what you're saying is, like, if you think about energy in terms of waves and frequencies, there'd be like a wave that's maybe shaped like this, meeting a wave that's shaped like this.
Yeah.
Then
yeah.
when they meet, they kind of
Yeah, because me
form
experience
something else.
Yeah, because me experiencing that now, I don't just sleep with anybody. Now I need to get to know the person, their lineage, their parents, you see, and then I can allow myself to be intimate with that person, you see. So do your guys think the same way, or it's only me, or what? Like,
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I think that intimacy is not just sex, by the way.
is what?
Intimacy is connection, any kind of connection. When you say you know someone intimately, it means you know them closely. They are close to you. That is its basic, I think, definition.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, being intimate with someone, being close with someone, will always affect your energy. It will always be a meeting of spirits, whether or not it's sexual activity, right? And another point is, I think this is obviously a bigger conversation that I'm about to refer to, but I think
Tell us.
looking at sex workers now in the sense that they are this cesspool of negative energy, and not necessarily as often women who are forced into those positions, or who are raised in the position of being sex workers, because a lot of them are underage when they start in sex work.
Yeah.
So I think we need to humanize sex workers as much as possible
As a
when
norm,
we speak.
we should make it a norm in our daily life.
We should humanize them in our conversation when we speak about them, and not
people, they're not vessels of this
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
energy,
Yeah.
I think that because that only adds to their endangerment in society.
Yeah.
That only adds to them being vulnerable
Okay.
to all kinds of violence in society when
Okay.
we make them these extreme beings,
Okay.
yeah.
You answered.
Yeah, I think I answered it
I
quite
feel like I needed
quickly.
more. Imta, shoots there, shoots us.
Yeah, but I think, like, for me, I've never really been like someone who's like hella promiscuous. Like, I've always kind of tended to have my head in the clouds a little bit. So I think there's always been a thing. I don't know, maybe it's a natural expectation for me. Like, I can't just sleep with anyone, like, it's not a thing, right?
Even if they're beautiful, they're nice, like
there's grades to
Oh
beauty.
my
Like,
God.
dude,
The
she can look.
sexism of it
She
all.
can look like she is. I don't know what's magazine standards things these days. She can look whatever the standard of a beautiful looking woman is, right?
Yeah.
She can look that, like the physique, all of that, right? But then, like, at the end of the day, like she was saying, like, there's grades to intimacy, and with the intimacy, that's where I feel the beauty really is as well. You know how nice it is, like, to. Oh, might sound toxic, but I don't think it's toxic. Anyway, do you know how nice it is to, like, someone will see you, like, just chilling quietly there, and then from across the room, they, like, just give you a look, and you look at each other at the same time, and it's just like, ah.
Love at
Yeah.
first sight.
No, not love is first sight. You No.
Yeah.
not even love at first sight, but that thing, like, you've been with someone and you know someone so well,
Yeah.
that like they will turn around, you will turn around, you will click,
Oh, that
and they will
connection,
know,
yeah,
Uti,
yeah.
like, you know what, we need to have a chat.
Mm.
Those small little things, you know, like for me, that's kind of what it takes. Because I also don't just step into relations,
Mm.
you know? So, cool, maybe there is the thing of like you carry someone's bad vibes or whatever through like sexual exchange. But I've never found myself in that kind of position because I'm not around like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, okay, I'm not going off topic.
Was cool.
I believe in astrology, like
Ah.
star signs and stuff. You see, me, I'm a Leo, and I know that for a fact Leos are arrogant. They want things to go their own way. Sometimes you can be a little bit of a narcissist. You see.
Right.
You see, I have those kind of attributes, you see. So I know, like, I notice something when I'm dealing with someone, or like when I'm dealing with the woman or when I'm dealing with the guy. Like, since I'm a last born,
Right.
me and the firstborn, we go, when you're firstborn, me and firstborns, we go together.
Mm-hmm.
If I try to date a last born, things they don't work, you see. And I noticed that when you're a middle child, you fit anyway.
But wait, what does that have to do with astrology?
Listen.
I'm trying to find those associations.
Okay.
Listen. When you're a middle child, you fit anyway, like firstborn, you can do with the lastborn as well, you see. So, Mina, my question is two. Have you noticed such pattern when it comes to, since I'm a lastborn, me and lastborns, things don't work? And then the second one is that astrology, star signs, do they work? Like every morning I have this app of mine, it's called Astrology something. They tell me your day is gonna go like this.
Yeah,
And then most of the time my day goes like that.
sure.
So,
Can I go first?
please.
So with the whole thing of firstborns and lastborns, I think the point that you're trying to make is like when you're socialized the same or similarly, let me not say the same, similarly. Like if you've had the same upbringing with someone,
Yeah.
you'll have more to connect on. You'll have more in common. I think that's the point that you're trying to make. And I agree. Like, yeah, I agree. Like if you are raised in similar ways with someone, then you will have more things that you kind of connect on, and your personalities might reflect each other in some ways. But that's also very dependent on how you're raised. And it's not necessarily that you have to be born first, last, or it's kind of just about how your childhood
Are you
upbringing was.
firstborn, lastborn?
I think I behave like a middle child. So I'm very much a middle child.
Okay.
Astrology is not just your star sign,
Star sign.
right? You
What
have a
is it?
birth chart.
Explain.
You have something
Tell us.
called a
These
birth
things.
chart.
Tell us.
You know, and I think a lot of people who are watching and who are into astrology might be able to know this. There's this thing called natalchart.com. You can find your birth chart there. You just put in your details when you were born, you know, date and everything, you know, Google. And then it'll give you a birth chart. Your birth chart is, when they say star, they actually mean sun. Your sun sign. Star sign, sun sign. All of the planets were in a certain position astrologically. According to this belief, obviously some people say it's pseudoscience, but all of the planets were in a certain position at the time of your birth. At the time of your birth, when when you came to the world, there was a point. There was an orchestration of the stars, and so the moon was in a certain sign, the sun was in a certain sign, Venus was in a certain sign, Mars, and so forth and so forth. And each of them denote an aspect of your personality.
Oh, that's astrology. Ne?
That is astrology.
Oh, so you believe
So
in
it's not
astrology?
just your star sign.
You believe in that?
Not that I believe in it, but I do use it as a guide sometimes when I interact with people. Like Leos tend to be the center of attention. Not that they want to be, they kind of just are.
What star sign are you?
I'm a Virgo.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Virgos, the what?
So Leos are fire signs, and
Water.
Virgos are interesting that you say that, but no, Virgos are earth signs. But I have a lot of water in my birth chart. So sometimes you can have a fire star sign, and you can have a lot of water, or a lot of earth, or a lot of air in your other signs, like your Scorpio, like your Venus, your Mars. You know, can have like something that kind of opposes
Okay.
the star sign.
Okay.
And then you will resemble that more than you do
Okay.
the main star
Okay.
sign.
Before we go to Mta, we had a guest, Uneo. I call him High Power. He's also into controversial. You can stand there, so like the seats. Can you join us? Yeah,
Maybe
just
just
this.
go
Or you
next
can
to-
sit. I don't know. But I want to hear your.
Space for
Okay,
Neo. Hi,
yeah.
Neo.
Hello, guys.
Yeah, this is Neo. Introduce yourself like short, and then we go to Mtali.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Neo. I'm part-time DJ. Grew up in Soweto, born there. Since we on like maybe spirituality and stuff, I'd say I grew up as a Christian, even though I don't identify as Christian.
Okay, that's what's up. Mta, astrology, star signs. What's your take on that?
So, I mean, my take is, look, I've had a lot of encounters that have, I'm aware of astrology to a certain extent. You know, sun signs, moon signs, you know, that kind of, I'm aware of it. And like, oddly enough, like, I think there's a level to which, for example, I found out that I was like, not straight Taurus, but Taurus Gemini split. And then like that comes apparently with its own stuff. And like I remember a few years back, I think it was around 2015, I fell into the habit of like, I would check what's my star thing saying today, you know?
Horoscopes.
But I realized to an extent that I think it's also the extent to which you buy into something determines your relation with it. So, like I don't look at my star signs thing, but it's also a thing like where I know a lot of people who like are very much involved with their astrological activity things, right? So like I know about stuff where that's concerned, but like I don't really have a relationship with it.
I feel you. High power. What's your take on?
I used to also follow a lot of that because who doesn't want to know the future? I mean, like we all want to know what's going to happen tomorrow, what's the lotto numbers, you know. But then at some point I had a lot of free time in my life, like almost 6 years of having nothing to do, just sitting. And then one day I decided, since I grew up like mostly in church, let me see what this Bible says and then learn it for myself and understand it for myself. And then I realized that God is really against astrology and things like that. We are not allowed to look at the signs of the moon because at the end of the day, you make that your God, you understand? And then there's a higher power than just, you know, things of the earth. Like, we can't worship the creature rather than the creator. You see now, the creator now is taking a back step, and then now what do? We worship the things, you know, material things in a way. Yeah, so I completely stopped that. I don't even want to know what's going to happen tomorrow. So astrology, in my world, it's a very dangerous thing. It's dangerous.
Okay, so to ask your guys, does it matter your other half to be like me now? Okay, not me. Let's say I'm a Rastafarian.
Yes.
Rastafarians tend to date other Rastafarians. So, Nina, does it matter your other half, Gucci, is Muslim, is Hindu, or they Christian, or what? Like, does it matter, or you just do?
Am I starting again?
Ladies
Not
first.
that I want
Ladies
to.
first.
Chivalry, do we need to
Online.
Oh, okay. That one I can actually agree with. Like I said before, the idea of somebody should believe this is like a very dogmatic way of looking at belief. As a spiritual person, I'm kind of open to systems of belief. I'm open to learning about systems of belief. So if somebody is Muslim and I don't know that they are, or they're Hindu, or they're Jewish, and I meet them and I find them to be quite a decent human being, and we develop a connection, and then I find out, or I find out beforehand, whatever the case may be, I'm always open to learning and interacting. You know, I feel like interacting with someone who has a different belief system from me is not something that restricts me from seeing them as a human being with like the potential of being a human being that can be close to me. When it comes to relationship, that obviously determines a lot of how you're going to live your lives together. And that is going to be dependent on your communication and how you're able to give and take, collaborate in your belief systems.
Okay, I wanted you to elaborate on that, but if my employer here says 10 minutes, can we add 5? Because add 5. Okay, guys, 10 minutes, my employer wakala, yeah? So I wanted you to elaborate on that, but yeah, we're gonna have a part 2, I guess, ne?
Of food.
Yeah, we're gonna have a part 2. Yeah. So, what's your take on that? Muhammad Bambayo or your woman needs to be Islam?
I mean, look, I think the most important thing, if anything else, is compatibility, right? Because if someone is my partner, there's someone that I'm with, right? And to be with someone involves intimacy on more than just one level. We're not just going on dates. We're not just, having little sleepovers. Compatibility matters, but it's not. Compatibility doesn't mean you have the same religious practices or affiliations or whatever. Compatibility means between the two of you, you have that world, that understanding within yourselves as two individuals that come together. Right?
I think you guys share the same.
So, yeah, to an extent.
Yeah.
But I think compatibility is that thing you come with someone, you can see them, they can see you, and you still choose to step into each other's worlds.
Okay. High power, now can you be oppose them because they say the same
Of course
answer
I was.
a different way?
Of course I was.
Please,
Don't
put
pause
your
for the
position.
sake
No,
Come
I'm
on,
very,
take
very.
Yeah.
Izobanjalo. It's really important that you guys are on the same page. I'm gonna go back with the thing of me growing up in church in Jayam. We all have heard Guti if Namadlozi, Amadimoni, nan. You understand? So if I'm Christian, and then she's gonna go ayenza umsebenzi kubo.
It's a red flag.
Mfethu ngeke sihlangana. Yabona mfethu ubabakho umamakhe isango.
Yeah.
You understand? They're a traditional leader of some sort or what, and I'm Christian.
Yeah.
Dude, as soon as they beat the bones, I mean, akusahambi kahle. You see, and anything that goes otherwise, I have a bad dream in the house or what. It's those things that you did, Guinea and stuff like that. Yabona. So it's really important to be in the same page. I think. Like minus and all the drama and all those things, rather be on the same page. If you're Christian, let your woman be Christian as well. Look how long Muslims get married for, almost an eternity. And it's rare to hear Muslim people saying I'm divorcing or whatnot because they're on the same page. I think that's very
quick question:
important.
Are we saying that are we grading the success of a marriage based on how long it is?
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow. Well, I have to think.
Is that your belief in that?
The longer it goes for,
The more successful.
No, not
Niggas
really.
Oh.
No, but then not at all. That's not what defines a good marriage.
Yeah,
You understand? It's coming into that house and feeling Uguti, no, kuno mama wasendlini and things like that. But then it can also. Nobody has died. You said until death do us apart. Nobody has died, but the wedding has lasted 2 years. There's a problem. You understand?
You're not keeping your word. In that
Yeah, but all of us, we always envy those older people when they say we've been married for 60 years. So it is a milestone in a way.
But also, what
There's a
happens
possibility.
behind the
Interesting
curtains?
take.
That's also
Yeah.
another
Yeah, that's
thing.
also possible.
Yeah.
You
What happens
understand?
behind the curtains? Because you can show a nice marriage to the public,
Yes.
but then in the household, what actually happens?
Mm.
But also, when we're saying relationships, or we even talking the thing about must you be the same, or even talking about marriage, or we're just talking about initially to be with someone.
Both. It can be both.
It's a good question.
Both.
Because Cyril,
Both. Being in a relationship and being married to
That
some
person.
person. But if my employer here is crying,
Levels
ne?
of commitment.
So 5 minutes now. So let's try to
Wrap
every
up.
time when you finish this episode, I ask one question. Yeah, so what's the perfect world for you? When you say now this world is perfect, now as human beings we can live a perfect life. what's a perfect word for you? I'll start with you, high power.
I'd say a perfect world is where kids are safe. I think as soon as children are safe, everything else doesn't matter, man. You know, as long as the future is secured, that's a perfect world for me.
Mta?
Yeah, I think for me, this may sound selfish, but I don't believe it is.
Sure.
I'm looking at it from different sides.
Sure.
But the perfect world for me would be a world where I can embody peace, love, kindness, and in that way hold space for someone else to cultivate the same or their own.
That's what's up. Tepiso, tell us.
Yeah, it's such a setup of a question. Because what is perfection?
Tell us.
What is that?
Tell us.
I don't think
tell
I
us.
know what perfection is, so it's very difficult for me to answer. But I guess a perfect world would be one that has space for imperfection. In the context of the question.
Wow, that's what's up. Think here we deserve a part two. Yo, employer,
wanna reverse card
I've been
you.
shy. I wanted to take this long, but it's fine. Guys, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button for the algorithm so more people can watch this episode. And then hit the notification button so that you can know when you're posting our episodes. So, guys, this is all things spirituality with Cyril Pilkington. Any last words?
See you in part 2.
See you in part 2.
Yeah, see you in part 2.
Last words? Okay. Guys, it's a wrap. Now,
2, 1.